Christy Elkins-Gabbard, and this video is for my ESL Methods class at Georgetown College, and it is under the supervision of Dr. Westerlund. And I have with me Ms. Newsom, who teaches biology here at Dunbar, and we are collaborating together on an ESL biology lesson. So I want to talk first about the original lesson. Do you want to share about the original lesson, what it is that we're doing?
The original lesson was about pH. So we are trying to understand acids and bases in certain substances and what it means and how we measure that. And most importantly, why it's important to life and living organisms. So in the lab, we were given 20 different things to test. So it was Clorox or vinegar or baking soda and several other products that they use in everyday life and see how pH is tested. And we would use litmus paper to dip it, and if it turned a certain color, we could test the pH. We did that after taking guided notes over pH and what it meant, and pH means the power of concentration of hydrogen ions, because when water itself is in a concentration, it breaks apart into ions, which is hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions. Sounds really complicated.
No, but I just learned something. I didn't realize that was what pH meant.
Yeah, so power of hydrogen. In science, a lot of things get arbitrary letters and arbitrary numbers for no real reason. There isn't a real reason why it's a P, but we remember it as power of hydrogen in a substance. So the more hydrogen ions it has, the more acidic. The more hydroxide or OH in it, the more basic it is. And they were able to test that.
Okay, and this is part of a bigger unit on biochemistry,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And so before this, they've done a water lab, and then after pH, they'll be doing
macromolecules, so lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, and carbohydrates, the big four that make us living organisms.
Okay. So for this particular lesson, we also picked a student, and we're going to call her Student J for this, because we don't want to give away her information. And I wondered, are you familiar with Infinite Campus that we have?
I'm familiar with Infinite Campus.
And how to pull up a student and what their accommodations are for ESL.
They have recently put them into Infinite Campus, but I am still working on how to pull it up, so I'm not for sure. I will say I'm not for sure how to pull up their accommodations.
All right, so we have this ready here. And so if you would we'll put her name here in the search box. Maybe I didn't know. Should be this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, and so then you go to index,
Okay.
and then down to program setting. Where is it on here? Student information, and then her program participation. Well, there we go, and then her LEP.
Oh, okay.
And so
well, that's pretty simple.
Yeah, so you can see here that you have a whole range of information.
Okay.
So before we start that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her.
Okay.
And this is what we call the sociocultural dimension in the PRISM model. So there's 4 dimensions that we need to think of for our ESL students. There's sociocultural, there's cognitive, academic, and linguistic.
Okay.
It's called the CLD biography. So this information we're going to use the sociocultural. So she is from the Congo. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did.
And then they moved to Mali.
Okay.
And then came here. She's here with her mom and her sister and brother. She's the oldest.
Okay.
And her mom has no education because it was too dangerous there.
Yeah.
She was not able, and her dad was actually killed in war. He was a general. So.
Oh wow.
She is 16. She's been here since 2012. So she's what we call a long English learner. So it's going on for a while. And she has the primary responsibility at home of taking care of her siblings. She doesn't remember a lot about schooling there, but I don't know if you know that they use rulers there for discipline.
Oh, wow.
And her finger is actually bent from being hit too
Oh,
hard.
goodness.
So that just explains a lot about who she is and where she comes from. have you looked at any of her MAP scores or anything
I
like
haven't.
that?
I haven't because I wasn't for sure how to access those.
Okay, well that's in a different tab, so we can look at that later, but just for your information, she scored in the 11th percentile
Oh, wow.
on MAP.
Mhm.
So that's pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our cert test they took last year,
Mhm.
similar situation. Now what you have here though are access scores. Do you see that where it says access scores? The LEP assessment right there.
Okay.
And see the access, all the different years.
Oh, the KDE, okay.
Okay, and so this is a test given by WEDA. WEDA is the organization that we use for ESL. They're concerned with academic language.
Okay.
And so you can see here what her scores are in the various sections for oral language, listening, speaking, reading, writing. And in a minute you'll see what these scores coordinate with.
Okay.
But basically if they get to a 5, they go out of the program.
Oh, okay.
So you can see in some areas she's pretty low still.
Right, yeah.
Her writing though is pretty high.
Mhm.
So comprehension and listening are her lowest, so that's why when we give oral directions, she has a
Yeah.
hard time
Okay.
knowing what to do.
Okay.
But we really want to give her a chance to write because she
Right.
can really
Mhm.
express herself there.
Good idea.
All right, we also want to look at her her services. So this is the kind of instruction she has, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But also I wanted to look at her accommodations.
Okay.
All right, so those are all the things that she should get from us. So
Okay.
you can see there, it's a bilingual
Mhm.
dictionary, extended
Okay.
time, simplified language, an adapted pace of instruction, interaction opportunities,
Okay.
academic conversation, build background knowledge, linking her instruction to
Right.
prior knowledge, and then language and content objectives, objectives. So you can see that you are already doing a lot of those for her and for all your ESL students.
Okay.
I mean, the lessons take longer, you
Right.
try to simplify the language, you try to build their background knowledge.
Okay.
But this is a good list because this is very common of what our
Right.
ESL students will need.
Okay.
Then what's also exciting is the can-do descriptors. And you may have to log in for that.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, WEDA actually has this short version of the can-do descriptors. It's the Key Uses Edition for 9 through 12. And see, these are all the things that she can do based on her level. So I'll give you a chance to get that. I actually have it printed. We don't have to do that. I forgot. I
All
printed
right.
it for us.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, there we go.
Oh, she's gonna have to log in. So let me just do
Alright.
that. Okay, so here are her can-do descriptors. So here's
Okay.
all the things that she can do based on her level.
Oh,
So she's
okay.
level 2 emerging. So when she can process arguments by doing these things.
And how many levels are there till she reads like a mastery of these type things?
There's 6.
Okay.
But 6 is really rare. 'Cause
Okay.
That's like a native speaker.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
But
yeah.
5 is what we hope for.
Hope for,
You're
okay.
right. So
Yeah.
here you see she's mainly emerging. She's
Right.
at level 2.
Mhm.
So these are the things though that she can do. We'll base the lessons, this lesson, on what she is able to
Right.
do.
Okay.
And then here, this is matches. See, you've got the
Okay.
to level 6. And so when we're doing explanations, which this lesson has a lot of, explaining how pH works,
Right.
see if she's at 2,
Okay.
she's still just sequencing things and
Okay.
comparing things. She's not regrouping.
So it's good that we give her like those little cards where she has to sequence it.
Exactly.
Because it helps. Okay.
And then you can
Perfect.
assess her at that level as
Okay.
well, because that's what
Okay.
she's able to do.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Performance wise. That's good.
Right. And so if you know that you're allowed, so to speak, to assess her
Okay.
at the level she's at in English, but you keep the content the same.
Okay. Is there anything like that we can do that helps get her to like developing?
Yes.
Like.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to get to.
Okay.
The actual
Okay,
answer, the actual answer to that is that we add language objectives to
Okay.
our content objectives, and that's
Okay.
one of the things that we need to do. And
Is that like repeating vocabulary and stuff, and then making those connections?
yes.
Okay.
So it's go to all the domains:
Okay.
reading, writing, speaking, and listening that
Okay.
we had here,
Okay.
actually have this. Yes, so
Okay.
this is from, and I'm gonna send you the links to all this, so
Okay,
you don't have to
perfect.
have the whole book. You
Okay.
can just pull what you
Oh,
want.
Alright, perfect.
This is the 2012 amplification of the English Language Development Standards from WIDA. And so you can see here what the standards are that you want to post in addition to your
Right.
students will be able to. You
Okay.
also pick a language standard for the day
Okay.
or for the activity.
Mhm.
So I've done one for each domain for this
Okay.
lesson,
Okay.
where they're going to be speaking, listening, reading, and writing.
Okay.
Then that helps them all
Move
to the
on
next
to the next level.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
over time. So we have here that for listening, she can categorize information. So maybe
Okay.
have a graphic organizer and
Okay.
put it in the right place. Describe features of pH,
Okay.
maybe. Find examples of different pHs. Well, you're
Okay.
doing that in the
Right,
lab already,
okay.
but you just want them to use the language
Right.
to do it, to do the
Okay.
content. And we're going to give her some scaffolds to do that as
Okay.
well.
Okay. To build her up. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last thing I wanted to mention from WIDA, because we have all these resources from WIDA, are these are the essential actions.
Mhm.
These are actions that you take to make that happen.
Okay.
So again, I was going to send you the link for this, or I can just copy this, but one of them that we're going to look at was what you're talking about is action 13,
Okay.
integrate the language domains to give authentic instruction,
Okay.
right? But you do a lot, again, you're doing a lot of these already.
Okay.
So, we're also going to look at designing the teaching for her sociocultural context. That's what we were
Okay.
talking about earlier, where she's
Right.
from and what.
Okay.
So, all right, so that's,
Help her learn. Okay.
yeah. So these are the WIDA connections, and I don't
Oh,
even know,
those are
WIDA
cool.
was new to me. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's,
I've never seen that, but it's amazing because, especially for someone who doesn't typically teach ESL, these are great tools to use. That'd be great. Really?
okay, so there are 3 main approaches for teaching ESL.
Okay.
The first one, I don't know if you did when you were younger, I did, I took Latin, it's the grammar approach.
Okay.
You do
Yeah.
grammar translation, or, they don't recommend that anymore. That's not really considered
Okay.
the research-based method.
Okay.
The second one is the communicative approach, and that's what we're
Okay.
using here at
Okay.
Dunbar. There are 2 main kinds, the integrated content-based approach called ICB,
Okay.
and that's themes, using themes and topics in
Okay.
those themes. They really prefer them to be integrated, interdisciplinary.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
more middle school, does a lot of that. But also because we're co-teaching, it's considered integrated. Because
Okay.
we have an ESL teacher and a science teacher
Okay.
in here at the same time.
Okay.
And some of the features of that are having the language objectives posted, having hands-on activities,
Mhm.
making sure that we build background knowledge,
Okay.
that we do formative and summative assessments. And then the sheltered instruction method is very similar to that. The difference is that usually you just have a grade level teacher and no ESL teacher. And a big feature of that one is also what we call comprehensible input, the guarded vocabulary, where you speak slower and you use
Okay.
smaller words, not content words,
Right.
but things to get them access to
Okay.
the content. And so I just wanted to let you know that this is available for that method. Fayette County is actually using the SIOP model, which is one of the most research-based models for sheltered instruction. And so we have this in our building. I have this
Okay,
book if
alright.
you're interested. This is the theory and practice for SIOP. But what might be more helpful for you and me are these 99 ideas and activities.
Okay.
So the SIOP model has 3 aspects: preparation, instruction, and assessment, and then 8 components. I was going to see if that umbrella model is in here. So there's preparation, building background, comprehensible input, that's what I was talking about, the vocabulary, and pictures, and acting it out, and role play, all that
Yeah.
stuff that we've been doing. Strategies for them to use. Interaction, that's the cooperative learning. Practice and application, labs, lesson delivery, how you're delivering it, and then review and assessment. So these are ideas broken down, so if we're struggling with one of them, we can find an idea in here
Right.
to help us with our sheltered
Yeah,
instruction.
good idea. Yeah.
So, the hands-on activities that we
Mhm.
do, that's part of this, the cooperative learning. And I wanted to discuss with you, I know we're having difficulty getting the groups that we want
Right.
and getting them
Yeah.
to work. So,
Mhm.
and I actually put that so far we've just been kind of focusing on behavior
Mhm.
and who will do, how can we
Right.
group them so they'll get the work done.
Right.
But Miss Merrick down the
Mhm.
hall, she had this great idea I thought we should try, and that's
Okay.
that she's gone through here and
Mhm.
done all the numbers
Okay.
that we were looking at, the
Yeah.
2.9s.
Right.
She's made an Excel spreadsheet
Okay.
for her class.
Okay.
So some activities when they're reading, she groups them by.
Oh, they're okay by the
When they're
reading.
writing,
Makes
she
sense.
does it by their,
Okay.
or she might do heterogeneous grouping.
Okay.
Something else we might want to try is group them by language when we're
Okay.
doing background knowledge,
Yeah.
so that they can talk in their own
Right.
language
Together.
together
Good
to get
idea.
that done. So
Okay.
that's something I think that maybe we should try
Yeah.
to get better groups
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
figure out what might work.
Right.
So did you have any questions about, there is one more method I didn't mention,
Okay.
it's the cognitive approach, it's called
Okay.
CALA, and it's more about how students learn, thinking about their thinking
Okay.
and things like that, and so, but we're not really using that approach, I didn't
Right.
spend as much time on that one.
Okay.
Alright, so before we get into the modification, there's one more thing
Okay.
that they've stressed for us ESL teachers,
Mhm.
and that's teacher advocacy.
Okay.
So that's where we're advocating for our students.
Okay.
And there's 3 ways you can do that, and you're doing them most already.
I'll try.
One of them is to stay current.
Okay.
So you're doing this right now,
Okay.
to stay current on topics and ways.
Okay.
The second one is defensibility. And we've been
Mhm.
talking about that, defending
Yeah.
what we're doing based
Right.
on research.
Okay. You're
So
right.
we've talked about the department some
Right,
and how we're trying some new things. We
Right.
will be able to say, well, the research shows that we need to say the words
Right.
3 times before.
Right.
So, and the third one is called futurity, and that's doing things outside the box. And Ms.
Mhm.
Newsom actually has a sign right over there that says
Think
think
outside
outside the box, and
Yeah.
she's already trying to do things outside the box in
Mhm.
ways that students will try to. Like right now, she has celery turning colors on her bookshelf over there to help them understand the properties of water,
Right.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And,
And try to make those connections to their real world life. I
Right.
guess. Yeah.
So these are 3 ways that you can advocate for
Okay.
your students.
Yeah.
Staying current, making sure you can defend your
Right.
decisions and
Mhm.
keep trying to do things
Right.
in a new way. And I thought that would, affirm what you're already doing. You could
Okay.
say, well, I'm being an advocate, I'm
Right.
doing what's
Which is
right for
true,
my
yeah.
students, yeah.
It's good to know that. Yeah.
All right, so we wanted to look at the lesson,
Okay.
and I made a copy here for us to look at.
Okay.
So the first thing that we would want to do is add some language objectives. And the language, because we have the standards in the
Right.
lesson, and I just want to make a point to say that for biology, it uses the ACT standards rather than the NGSS standards.
Right.
That's something that I learned.
Right. We will move to NGSS next year.
Right. So, so we have the content standards, and what we needed were language standards. And so, for this particular activity, I added 4 language standards to this. Those were the domains. Hold on. So one of them was that they could, for reading,
Okay.
that they can identify the vocabulary as they're
Okay.
reading,
Yeah.
because of from the PowerPoint, right?
That's a good idea.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And we could also do that to have them repeat the vocabulary words. They're
Okay.
doing the guided notes. And we
Mhm.
on purpose took out the vocabulary words, so they had to write them in
Right.
as they're reading. They also have a practice activity where they have to answer questions
Mhm.
about what they're reading.
Okay.
For writing, I added I can write a conclusion, and we added a
Okay,
conclusion to the
good.
lab.
Yeah.
Especially our student that we're looking at is a good writer, so that gives her a way to express herself. For listening, we did directions,
Mhm.
and I had another teacher suggest that we're having some trouble with that,
Yeah.
following directions.
Right.
So she suggested that we cut the directions up and have the
Okay.
students get in order of
Okay.
the directions
Yeah.
to help them
That's a good
follow the
idea.
directions.
Yeah.
And then for speaking, we've added a speaking part to the lab where they have to discuss their answers.
Oh, good idea. Yeah, so they have to talk about, good idea.
So
That is good
when they
modification.
say, what is your answer for number
Right.
1? I agree, I
Right.
disagree, because, and we're
Okay.
gonna put that in there, the exact words that they're gonna say, so
Yeah.
that they can practice
Right.
speaking, making an argument and explaining.
Okay.
So we wanna start adding those to this, and that will also help us hit the cognitive
Okay.
domain, especially if we ask at the end of the lesson, so how are you doing
Right.
with this? Did you meet them? That's something I had struggled with in my classes
Right,
too, is
yeah.
saying, okay, here's our objectives,
Yeah.
did we meet this?
Right, did we meet them? Right.
What else can we do? What
Okay.
else?
What are you struggling with? And
Right. Okay. Let's look at some other things that we
okay.
added to the lesson. Lost my spot here. Okay, so for student M, we have several modifications that we're going to make. Okay, so she is allowed to use a bilingual dictionary. We don't usually emphasize that, but there's no Lingala English dictionary that I know of, so she'll have to use her phone or device, or we can provide one for her. We want to make sure we're using academic language, which you always do. Adaptive pace of instruction, we already talked about that. Let it run longer.
Slower and longer.
Interaction opportunities with the lab, and then being in groups, working together. Linking it to prior knowledge, we're doing that. It would be awesome if we could give a pre-assessment in her language.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I don't know that we can, but
Right.
that, in a perfect world, that's
Right.
what we would do.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so before the unit, you gave them a pre-assessment, they're not in their language, and then
Right.
you would know. We did discover we have some biology Spanish books, so that might help us
Right,
though,
yeah.
with that piece. And then, yeah, the language and content objectives posted on the board. And again, this would be our cognitive and our linguistic dimension for her.
Good.
We already mentioned that doing the hands-on activities, the cooperative learning, the background knowledge is all part of sheltered instruction
Okay.
and content-based instruction.
Okay.
So
That helps.
we're meeting those needs
Okay.
as part of the
Good.
instruction. There are checklists for that would help us make
Okay.
sure that we're
Yeah.
meeting all of
Well,
those.
particularly for every lesson too, it'd be good too to do that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think the more we use them,
Right, the better.
it'll
Yeah.
get a habit. We're going to models, okay, and then for her can-do descriptors, what we're gonna do. We're going to model sentences and be able, get her to ask for clarification. I actually have, from Katie Kinsella, I have some, laminated cards
Okay.
that have them ask questions for clarification, and we can pass those out when we're
Yeah,
doing
that's
questions
right,
and have
yeah.
them practice how asking questions, right, and how do you ask this question. Another activity, for the vocabulary, I was thinking that we could, on the notes, we could give them a word bank on the side.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, and then they have to put the words in,
Okay.
or you could have them highlight the
Mhm.
words in the notes,
Okay.
so that they're finding, getting more practice with vocabulary.
That'll work, yeah.
Also, you're really good at using pictures, but I did change, I don't know if you noticed, I changed the picture on the notes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
To have the pictures of the banana and
Yeah.
the detergent and all that.
Yes, yes.
So
was
that they
something-
could, and that will help her.
Identify, okay.
Right. And that will help her for her listening, so she can match what the oral
Right.
with a picture. Right, we talked about the summary. Oh, and we also added a card sort, because, on the homework practice,
Yeah.
they were just supposed to answer several questions, so we changed that to a card sort, so they're sorting things out by pH rather
right.
than, and they're also doing a coloring activity for the covalent bonding, right?
Right, because it's easy to say on the pH scale that bases are 7 and below, but what is 7 and below really?
Right.
So, they'll get to see that, that's good.
All right, we wanted to make some accommodations for her, the sociocultural dimension for her native language, and so I did make some accommodations there, or some modifications to the lesson. One was, there's a website, I don't know if you've seen it, that has the continents and the ocean, the pH of the ocean around all the countries.
Wow.
So I thought we could have them look
Yeah,
where
that's a
their
good idea.
what homeland is,
Mhm.
and do a sentence starter. The water near my country blank
Yeah.
has a pH of blank, which makes it an acid, base, or neutral.
Oh, that's good.
And then they can all practice. Then they'll be practicing all the vocabulary, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. This goes along with the theory that if they connect with their own culture,
Mhm.
then they're more likely to remember what
Right.
it is they're learning. Another example of that would be to have them. The initial practice activity was homework,
Okay.
but instead do a homework activity where they have to talk with their family in their native language about acids and bases and detergents and food,
Right.
and make a list at home of the foods that they have at home and whether they're acids or bases,
yeah.
or what they use at home or what did they use in their country before
Right.
they came here.
Yeah.
And then have a discussion in the classroom.
Right.
We eat this and this is acidic.
Right. Well, maybe next class where we're still doing water, they could bring in something in a little sample and we could test it.
Oh,
Yeah.
for the lab.
Yeah, for the lab, for the
Yeah.
actual lab. That'd be fun.
Yeah, so don't
Yeah.
just report, but
Yeah.
actually bring something.
Right, bring
oh, that's a
something
great
in, we'll
idea.
test it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Good idea.
Yeah, and that will also connect them with home. And you probably, I don't know, Krashen's I+1 theory
Mhm.
is take what they know. That's why pre-assessment's so important, and just
Mhm.
add one layer to it.
Okay.
And that's what these things help them do.
Okay.
Instead of doing a completely new food or a new
Mhm.
brand,
Right.
take what they know
Right.
and add pH to it.
Okay.
I guess the last thing that we would want to talk about is technology, the
Okay.
role of technology. And so the bilingual dictionary would be on
Okay.
one.
Mhm.
Looking at the map
Mhm.
is another one. Maybe when they go home, they have to look for brands and things. That might
Right.
be technology. Allowing them to, well, the way we pull up pictures all the
Right.
times of things that we're trying to explain is also a use of technology. But anything else where we're helping them use technology is also important to enhance the
Okay.
lesson.
Yeah.
So we have a problem with cell phone usage in our class, so
Yeah.
we'll have to be really picky with that,
Right.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe if we encourage them more to look up words
Right.
in their language,
Right.
they might,
And how
it
to
might
use them
be,
in the appropriate academic way
Correct.
versus
right.
social meeting.
Okay, well, I think that covers all of the modifications that we've
Yeah.
had for the lab. We're adding the speaking,
Mhm.
we're adding the home component, the
Right.
writing component,
Right.
the language objectives. I think we need
Right.
to start posting those. Maybe I can be
Absolutely.
responsible for those for a
Yeah.
while until
That's
we.
okay, yeah, we have plenty of room, so
Yeah.
grab a board. I think that'd be great.
Did you have any questions or comments
I
or
feel like
anything?
I feel like this is good, and I feel like it helps me figure out like where they are as well. So especially being new to like everything and slowing it down. I'm so used to like going so fast with advanced that sometimes you have to stop. And this actually helps me in advanced classes because there are those students that linger behind for whatever reason or another, and just slowing it down and looking at different ways to scaffold a lesson is perfect. And this is great. This is a great way to incorporate it all. And it's great to have, we'll get that little bit of a moment right before we do this lab to actually ask them to bring some stuff in for them to test.
Right,
And then that way they can talk about it more at home.
right.
Yeah, so I think that's great.
Because the research shows that even if they're discussing it in their native language, it builds their content knowledge in
Right.
their language
Right.
and in
Yeah, it hooks
the
it
second
in.
language as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so
Well,
much,
thank
Ms.
you.
Newsom, for
Yeah.
doing this with me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to teaching the lesson with our new modifications.
Yeah, thank you.